We have the backstage reaction to a recent AEW debut, brand new matches are set for WrestleMania 40, and CM Punk's WWE return has been confirmed. But first, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest pro wrestling news. And let's begin by taking a look at a potential Vince McMahon cover-up in WWE. WWE and Vince McMahon would be hit by a lawsuit this past January, alleging that the now former chairman was involved in sex trafficking and sexual misconduct, allegations made by former employee Janelle Grant. The suit also claims that there was a company-wide cover-up of the alleged behavior from then unnamed executives listed as corporate officer number 1, 2, 3, and 4. However, a fresh report would drop from Tim Marchman, Brandon Thurston, and John Pollock of Front Office Sports, who revealed the identities of the mystery higher-ups that were listed in the case, and the report notes, WWE President Nick Khan and COO Brad Blum are the men identified as corporate officers number 1 and number 2 in a sex trafficking lawsuit filed in January in federal court in Connecticut against the company, former chair Vince McMahon, and former talent relations executive John Laurinaitis. The person identified in the suit as corporate officer number 3 is, according to FOS reporting, that Grant's lawyer confirmed McMahon's daughter, longtime WWE executive Stephanie McMahon. She is mentioned once in an ambiguous context. The person identified as corporate officer number 4, according to FOS reporting, which Grant's lawyer confirmed, is Brian Nurse, formerly general counsel and head of WWE's legal department. Whilst no sexual assault allegations are made against the 4 individuals named, the suit claims that they did have knowledge of the situation, and in regard to Khan and Blum, the report adds, the suit claims that Khan and Blum, whose names have not previously been reported, were instrumental to a scheme in which the plaintiff, a woman named Janelle Grant, was employed in a completely undefined role except for the understanding that she remains a sexual slave to be used and trafficked by McMahon within the WWE. Unlike McMahon and John Laurinaitis, the two are not personally accused of sexual misconduct or violence. Rather, the suit claims that they and others facilitated and covered up exploitation in many ways that make WWE liable under federal anti-trafficking law. In response to the report, WWE would release the following statement denying that the individuals named had knowledge of the situation, and it reads, WWE takes Ms. Grant's allegations very seriously and has no tolerance for any physical abuse or unwanted physical contact. Neither Nick Khan nor Brad Blum, prior to the lawsuit being filed on January 25, 2024, were aware of any allegations by Ms. Grant that she was the victim of abuse or unwanted physical contact, nor does the complaint allege that either had knowledge of such. We now wait to see how the lawsuit unfolds over the coming months and potentially years, with the knowledge we currently have likely just being the tip of the iceberg as to what may lie ahead for WWE as a company and Vince McMahon as an individual. And next is Brock Lesnar, close to a WWE return. Speaking of the Vince McMahon sex trafficking lawsuit, one man who was seemingly mentioned in the lawsuit is former WWE champion Brock Lesnar, with his inclusion, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, leading to his planned Royal Rumble return and subsequent WrestleMania match with Intercontinental Champion Gunther being scrapped, with him also being removed from the default roster of the WWE 2K24 video game, with him now only playable in Showcase mode. Over the weekend, a social media rumor would begin to swirl that claimed Lesnar had been re-added to the WWE.com official roster page, with subsequent articles popping up on various news sites covering the topic. This would then lead to heavy speculation that he could be set to return to television. However, there is a major issue with the now prominent story, that being that Brock was never removed from WWE.com in the first place. If we take a look at the WWE roster page on the Wayback Machine, a site that archives website pages for historical purposes, you can see that Lesnar has appeared on the page for the past several months, even after the lawsuit was filed. This despite the removal of Vince McMahon. It's unclear where this rumor started, but we can categorically confirm that Brock was not removed, therefore hasn't been re-added to the site, meaning the story is completely meaningless. This isn't the only Brock Lesnar story that's emerged, as comments from Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer have also gone viral, where he would reveal that movements are being made to bring him back. Here's what Brian had to say, and let's also pay close attention to the closing few sentences, and Alvarez would note, In the last few days, there have been moves regarding Brock Lesnar. If you listened to the show last night with Dave Meltzer, everything we talked about is accurate other than the roster page. There are movements to bring him back. I should add regarding Brock, and this is key, I'm not saying he's going to be back. I have no idea if he's going to be back. I wouldn't bring him back, but I can tell you there have been inquiries made, and what that means we will wait and see. It seems like a bad idea to me, put it that way. So yeah, basically, apparently inquiries have been made, but he doesn't know if Brock's coming back, and he's got no idea if it's actually going to happen or not, so I'd take that with a grain of salt. In regard to a potential return for the Beast, it's extremely unlikely that Brock Lesnar will appear on WWE television anytime soon, at least until the ongoing lawsuit is over, and the chance of a comeback will be heavily reliant on if any allegations made against him are proven to be true or false. If we look at the lengths WWE and 2K Games have taken to remove Brock from the recent 2K24 release, it's enough to show you that right now, the company want to distance themselves from the former WWE champion. With that said, any rumours of an impending return based on the roster page can be ignored, as nothing has changed regarding his status on the website. And next, a former WWE star could be close to an AEW debut. All Elite Wrestling have been on a spending spree as of late, having snapped up the signatures of former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada, with former WWE and IWGP Women's Champion Mercedes Moné also reportedly putting pen to paper on a deal with the promotion, with their debut expected to take place at AEW Dynamite Big Business in her hometown of Boston. It appears that there may be another name that could soon become all elite in the near future, as according to Fightful Select, AEW have been in talks with yet another former WWE and New Japan name, and the article notes. Fightful Select has learned that while Shelton Benjamin and All Elite Wrestling didn't have contact initially upon his free agency, the two sides have recently had conversations and discussed the possibility of him appearing for the company. We haven't learned whether or not he'll be signing a contract or on a full-time deal, or if anything has been finalized, but the two sides have been in contact and have discussed possible appearances as far back as a month ago. Fightful would add that there are people within AEW that were pushing for the signing of Benjamin last year when there were rumours that his WWE deal was set to expire, and whilst those contract rumours turned out to be false, he would later be released by the company in September. Next up, we have the backstage reaction to a recent AEW debut. New Japan Pro-Wrestling's top star Kazuchika Okada would recently become a free agent following the expiration of his contract, with him later choosing to sign for All Elite Wrestling as the newest member of the Elite, this alongside the Young Bucks at the expense of Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Whilst the decision to debut the Rainmaker as a heel caught many people off guard, it would recently be revealed that this has been the plan for months. We now have a new report from Fightful Select that reveals the internal reaction to Okada's debut and the execution of his heel persona, with many believing the angle to be a home run, and Fightful would note. Specifically, we've heard Tony Khan has long been of the belief, even before AEW, that Okada can be a major heel star on American wrestling TV. Sources in AEW claimed that this past week's performance only solidified that, and the company considered it a home run. Particularly, Okada's facial expressions in the spot were received really well. The hope is that in AEW he can do things differently than he's ever done in wrestling in the past, with an entirely decade-long track record at the top of NJPW. AEW and Tony Khan were also very confident in the chemistry that the Young Bucks had, something they anticipated based on previous work together. Fightful added that AEW officials were also very happy with the response to the AEW Collision segments that Okada featured in, as well as the backstage interview and segments. They would also say that there was a feeling that it was important to time his debut to immediately follow Sting's recent retirement, to give them yet another big star in a big spotlight. Next up, brand new matches are set for WrestleMania 40. Heading into this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, speculation would mount as to what the announcement would be from Raw and SmackDown general managers Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, who were set to break some news regarding both brands for WrestleMania. When the show rolled around, the two authority figures would reveal that the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships will be on the line at the April show, with Finn Balor and Damian Priest of the Judgment Day set to defend their Raw Raw and SmackDown belts against 5 other teams. The match will take place in 6-pack tag team ladder match action at WrestleMania, with qualifying matches now scheduled to take place over the coming weeks to fill the 5 remaining spots. On top of this, Jey Uso would show up on Raw to issue a challenge to his brother and former tag team partner Jimmy Uso. Despite wanting to come to Raw for a fresh start, Jey would say that the bloodline simply won't let him go, with him now declaring to knock the yeet out of his brother at WrestleMania. Whilst the challenge has been issued, Jimmy is yet to respond at this point. Whilst we await confirmation of that match, we do know one more match that will go down at WrestleMania. This after a gauntlet went down to crown the new #1 contender for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship. In the end, it was Sami Zayn that came out on top, overcoming final entrant Chad Gable with a contentious roll-up. The camera angle shows that Gable's shoulders weren't fully on the mat when the free count was made, something that's been pointed out across social media. It'll be interesting to see if this was intentional or if this is a mistake that will be turned into an angle on screen, perhaps setting up a singles rematch between Zayn and Gable to decide who is the true winner, or maybe the Mania match could be turned into a triple threat, or we could just see WWE ignore it entirely. Next up, CM Punk's WWE return date has been confirmed. CM Punk would recently be sidelined from in-ring action during this year's Royal Rumble match, this during an exchange with Drew McIntyre. Since then, the Second City Saint has continued to be mentioned by the Scotsman, who has mocked Punk's injury, something that can also be said for his upcoming WrestleMania opponent and WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins, who's also taken jabs at the former WWE Champion. With that said, it looks like the two men could be set to come face to face with CM Punk once again, as the Chicago native is in line for a big return in his hometown. WWE would announce that CM Punk will be returning to Monday Night Raw in just less than 2 weeks on the March 25th episode of The Red Brand, and according to WWE.com, this will mark CM Punk's first return to Chicago's All-State Arena since he shocked the world back in November with a stunning return to WWE at Survivor Series, garnering more than 71 million record-breaking views across social media platforms. His last appearance on Monday Night Raw on February 5th, 2024, saw him reveal an injury sustained at Royal Rumble that would force him to miss WrestleMania 40. Questions remain what the self-proclaimed best in the world will have to say when he addresses the WWE Universe in person on Monday, March 25th. Many fans have speculated on CM Punk's potential involvement at WrestleMania despite his injury, with many floating the idea that he could take on a role of host or maybe even a special guest referee during the World Heavyweight title match between his two enemies, and we'll perhaps get an update on whether this will be the case on March 25th. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.